I'm really grateful. Gentlemen, I have a lot of frustrations that these massive work that's been done over many Congresses by this committee in partnership, things like we've already discussed, the MCC, there's been supply chain money that we've worked on. A lot of this money seems to be right now either frozen, clawed back, programs stopped, and it's really frustrating to me. I think there's a wide bipartisan swath to deal with this crisis of work that Congress could be doing. When I've asked questions, Ambassador Pratt, you rightfully have told me what your team is doing. But we're here, invited you here as experts, not only to help us understand what your team is doing and what the strategies are, but to draw from you strategies for us as Congress, as an co-equal branch of government. So I'm wondering if the two of you could answer that question as experts that I value and grateful that we have you here as witnesses today about the congressional strategy, especially given the fact, very plainly, that a lot of the things that we have done, this administration doesn't seem to be embracing or utilizing that I think create a lot of risk. For example, efforts to give stability to conflicts in some of these areas directly undermine our ability to function. And again, seeing the way that Russia handles conflict in that region through the Wagner Group and others, it thwarts our efforts to create stability that's often needed for us to be successful. So I'm really giving you a few minutes here to inform me and perhaps those bipartisan things we could be doing, could be funding, could be directing to make a difference on what I think is a crisis that we're not meeting.
Some of the tools that you've mentioned, Senator, I totally agree with this concept of utilizing the tools that you've authorized, including DFC, MCC, and others. And there's a live discussion on all of these, including MCC, on which projects will be the most strategic and deliver for America. I can't get ahead of that on what I'm saying now, but that is a discussion that is ongoing. As I mentioned, we will have an assistance office in the Africa Bureau that'll be working very closely with the Foreign Assistance Bureau in the State Department. And I can assure you, I will be fighting very hard to try to get the resources that we need on the African continent to leverage other things that we're doing, whether it's peace processes, whether it's access for U.S. companies, including mining companies, whether it's ensuring standards. We want to support all of those efforts. There's an ongoing process right now to look at which types of projects would be the most strategic.
You know, one element of a strategy that we hear about sometimes is stockpiling. And in the recently passed big, beautiful bill, there were $2 billion set aside for the DoD for its strategic stockpiles. So Congress has, I'd say, already acted in that way, as well as adding, I think, $5 billion for minerals supply chains work as part of that package. So that's one element of a strategy where I think Congress has already acted on. I'll highlight again, I think, the need for DFC and XM to get very strong congressional support. XM has a relatively new, or it's actually a renewed program called the SCRI, the Supply Chain Resiliency Initiative. And this allows XM to support a mining or a processing project overseas as long as the offtake comes back to the United States to support jobs here in the United States. And it's a revival of a tool that they had many years ago and kind of went out of favor, but now it's been brought back. So as we mentioned, DFC is up for reauthorization. XM will be up, I think, next year for reauthorization. They are filled with very talented people who are trying to achieve success in a risky business. And they're held back, I think, from taking more risk because of the rules. They want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I think they've asked to have their risk cap raised. They're looking at ways, I know, to act more quickly, to move more at the speed of business rather than the speed of bureaucracy. And I think when they come before Congress with their proposals, I think one thing Congress could do would be to take a very good look and look at trying to support those proposals, because those are two key elements, I think, of a national strategy that we need to improve the situation.
I would, first of all, thank you. That's actually really constructive and really helpful for those reauthorizations, and I know our staffs will follow up, because I think that could be very insightful for some bipartisan work that we can do. So thank you for that. I guess what frustrates me is when we do work, 2 years ago, I was involved with the creation of the Economic Resilience Initiative to invest in these buckets of strategic infrastructure, sort of the digital security, critical mineral supply chains, and then to see that those efforts thwarted and not put forward. It seems like some of this work has been done. So again, both of you, I familiarized myself with your years and years of work and service. I stand, as I said at the very top, humbled and grateful for your leadership. I just think that this is, Chairman, a growing crisis, especially with the acceleration of technologies that are going to transform humanity, that Africa is with a population that will be 1 out of every 3 working people by 2050. We are in, and frankly, those countries looking towards us as a preferred partner, we're just not rising to as we should. We're to meet the challenges in the crisis, and we're far behind China in a way that should sober everybody who's concerned with national security. So I'm hoping we can find ways to work together and to get the administration to lean in more in what I believe has been sort of not strategic usage of the resources Congress has made available. That's actually being kind in undermining or thwarting congressional intent with a lot of these vital programs. So I'm grateful, and Chairman, again, this is 2 great witnesses and some really good conversation on both sides of the aisle.